feel like I have to say this before pretty much every single video these days, but I got sick a while back and I missed out on a whole heap of stuff, and so now I feel like Gromit in the wrong trousers, desperately trying to get all these videos out. Today we're going to be talking about the most recent trailer for the upcoming Sony Animation film GOAT, which I think is going to be a massive test as to whether Sony's going to be able to force their way into a top spot in the industry after a lot of success in terms of their original content. We can talk all about that a little later though, but for now, let's jump into the trailer and see what we can find. The trailer starts off once again with an intro by Stephen Curry. I have to wonder how much they paid him for this type of thing, because it is just a tiny little snippet, but across the two trailers, they have about 64 million views, which is immense, isn't it? And that's just for YouTube. No doubt it's already got a lot of views across other platforms as well, and so his face has been seen a lot. He's got to be raking it in. Plus, he actually plays one of the characters. Just a general thought before we start breaking down the narrative side of things, but I first want to talk about the visuals. They look so good, but why am I even surprised? It is an ImageWorks film after all. For those that don't know, Sony Animation's really just a production and distribution company. They don't actually animate their own movies, and they outsource that to other studios, which in most cases is going to be their sister studio, Sony ImageWorks. This particular animated studio has animated some absolute bangers. Into the Spider-Verse, Mitchell's vs. the Machines, Across the Spider-Verse, K-pop Demon Hunters, The Bad Guys 2 for DreamWorks, and then they have GOAT and Beyond the Spider-Verse coming in the future too. I think it's safe to say that they're the ones that have ushered in this new era of super dynamic action sequences in animation, and GOAT looks to be no exception to that, which is good because it's a sports movie, and if the action in a sports movie is bad, then the movie is bad, no matter what. Even if it was perfect in every other respect and won acclaim and earned billions, I'd still slightly roll my eyes at a sports film with bad action sequences. This is especially true in an animated context where it'd be much easier to make it exciting, as you don't have to work around real life limitations or anything like that. However, looking at this trailer and then the last one, it really does look like a visual feast, and I just really like the animation style and the colors and everything. However, at the same time, I don't know what it was, but it did occasionally feel pretty blurry in terms of the background and stuff, even when there wasn't a lot of fast-paced action going on screen. It's not enough to turn me off or anything like that, it's just strange. But now let's get into the plot. The story of the trailer kicks off with a home video filmed by Will's mum from when he was a little kid, I guess you'd say. She's taking him to his very first Raw Ball game. Already from the get-go, you know that she's got to be dead, right? After all, what would an animated film be without a dead parent or two? I just think they can't resist. And in their defense, it often does work because it creates a built-in sense of sympathy within the audience. However, it's also just funny to see, especially since people are currently glazing Sony so much and saying they're breaking the mold of animation and charting a new course, but at the same time, you can see they're still doing many of the same things that have always been done. I'm not trying to shit on them or anything, I'm just telling the truth. Little Will is absurdly cute, and I do hope there's more than just one or two scenes with his mum in these flashbacks, because they look like they're going to be really fun and wholesome. We actually get to see a lot of this early stuff at the game, and I really enjoyed seeing the struggles of everyday life for some of the different animal species. For example, this rabbit who presumably has so many family members attending the game, he has to buy a whole heap of food, and it ends up stacked in this enormous tower that he struggles to balance, and since it seems like they don't do custom food sizes and have a one-size-fits-all mentality in this world, he's struggling to the point that it looks like he copped some spice in the eye. Poor bastard! All he wanted was to feed his family! Now he's going to be suffering for the entire game. I love this type of humor where the movie just acknowledges an all-animal society would inherently end up being like this. I also think it just gets across the message of the movie that the world they live in is not made for smalls and everything's up against them. At the game we see Will getting all excited, and it was real cute to see him doing the muscle pose alongside those bulls sitting right next to him. And we get our first proper look at the star player of the Thorns, Jet Fillmore, who's the big star when Will's watching as a little kid, and is still the big star when he joins the team later on when he's an adult. Talk about some longevity, but part of me does think she's going to be a somewhat past her best character by the time of the events of the movie. But I am wondering, is she going to end up being an antagonist overall? I'm thinking that she's probably not going to be keen for him to join the team at first, as we know from the little blurb from the movie, that his team are going to be skeptical about him from the get-go. I think this disdain's going to be compounded when he turns out to be really good and starts to reinvent the game, and the other teammates and fans start to look towards him as the future. Then it can either go one of two ways. This lady can end up hating his guts and get massively jealous, leading to her to sabotage him in some way and he has to overcome the odds, or she'll see the error of her ways in disliking him and they have to form a duo that gets them the big victory against whatever team it is they come up against that's full of giant and aggressive animals, because obviously the end game of the movie is that Will proves he can hang against the giants, and not only hang, but teach his teammates to play outside the box too, and by doing so, get the win. This in turn will lead to other small animals being signed up to play, and will change the game forever, or at least that's what I expect the story's going to be. I did take a quick peek at the Wikipedia page of the film to see what I could find, and there is a character on there that's slated to be Will's rival on one of the other teams, and who is the season MVP, so I guess there's your major antagonist, although I still think there's going to be significant tension with Jet for the majority of the film, until they get it together in the last game against that guy specifically. We get an early action sequence of Jet destroying a whole team solo in a game, and Will decides that when he gets big, he's going to be just like her. Once again, the action is just so good from what we've seen in the trailers so far. I love this new era of animation. It's crazy how far the medium's come just over my lifetime, let alone since the early days of Walt Disney releasing the first ever feature-length animated animated film. The scene then cuts away at this point, but it is 100% a good opportunity for one of those big bulls sitting next to him to point and laugh and make him feel bad, as if he'll never be able to play in the big leagues. After all, in their eyes, smalls can't ball. I mean, maybe they don't go along with something like that, but I wouldn't be surprised. His mum then takes him back to the diner she works at for some cake, and she tells him that he won't just play raw ball, he's gonna change the game. Either that or the birthday cake scenes first, and then they go to the game. It's pretty unclear as at this point. What is clear though is that Will's mum is not gonna last until he's an adult, and I presume she's gonna end up dying off screen. You don't need it to be some big dramatic moment or a sudden accident to happen on his birthday or anything like that. She's probably just gonna have gotten sick in the time skip and passed away off screen just before the start of the main events of the movie. We then move on to the modern day and suddenly scratch the thought of the two bulls sitting next to Will at the basketball game shitting on his dream and telling him smalls can't ball, because this big bull in particular keeps appearing in some of these sequences. I mean, he's there at the game doing the pose, and then Will copies him wearing the matching merch. Then we see Will out on the street, and in this shot of the bus pulling up, he's standing with Will, and then in the shot after that, when they're walking, it's almost like he has his hand behind his back guiding him. Then he's also sitting with him on the train. I mean, maybe it's just a reused model, but it feels a bit strange to reuse the same character model so often over the course of a single trailer, you know? Could this maybe be his stepdad, a family friend of some sort? What I really loved about these opening sequences is seeing how chaotic the animal world is. The vibe for me is, what if all these animals lived in Zootopia, but Zootopia was also a massive shithole? You see these giant cars driving alongside these tiny little cars, and they surely wouldn't be able to see all of them on the road. And then there's also things like little staircases on public transport for the tiny animals to avoid instant death from the big guys because they clearly don't watch out. Then there's poor old Will, too small for the normal train but too big for the safety staircase, and he's getting sandwiched by the bull and an elephant. Ouch. It does seem like life sucks for Will, as we see his landlord with all the kids is going to evict him probably early on in the movie, which in turn is going to lead to Will trying to sell some of his stuff. Wasn't there a scene of Will trying to get a price on some sneakers and the dude sniffing them and whatnot? He probably doesn't get a good price, thus Will gets evicted, and he's probably unable to pay his rent, hence why he didn't pay for the train fare and jumped over the barrier earlier. There's also a funny little clip where one of the kids appears and tells Will that he believes in him and tries to give him a sandwich, only for him to accidentally throw it in a puddle, which is just the type of humor that's right up my alley, and it keeps me excited for the movie. We then have another look at some of the action again, which looks really awesome and really creative. I love that the environments of the Raw Ball arena seem to be different for each match, as I think it allows for some really exciting and out-of-the-box sequences that'll keep you on the edge of your seat. I mean, I'm excited enough here watching it in trailer format, but it's probably going to be a whole different experience watching it in cinema. Will talks about how he never lost that dream to go pro, and I have to say, I think the casting here is on point for Will. Caleb is bringing this youthful everyman energy to the role that I think is going to suit the character and the story really well. On top of that, from a business point of view, he's going to be coming off the final season of Stranger Things as well, so his profile couldn't be higher. I don't know if any of that would actually translate into people coming to see the film, but at the same time, it's not like it could hurt, could it? Also, I guess maybe scratch the idea of the black bull dude being his stepdad, because here we see him and a bunch of other big pickup players shitting on him and making fun of him because of his size. I guess that's not out of the question, but I also think it would be a bit odd for him to behave like that, you know? So maybe he is just some random dude, or it really has been a case of reusing the same character model again and again. We then see what is likely the moment that Will proves himself to the world, when he beats this horse guy one-on-one in front of a huge crowd, and I think in the first trailer it might have even been on TV, and thus he gets pretty well known because he clearly had to use a different skill set to win. This in turn will likely get him noticed by the Thorns owner, who signs him up because, as I expected, the team is now no good and their star player is likely washed. The game has seemingly passed the Thorns by, and so I think they'll have to adapt tactics to start to win games, and it won't just be Will that leads the charge. Well, I mean, maybe he is just really good and they're all really shit for the entire time, but I don't think that's going to be the case. It wouldn't be satisfying. In this sequence where they showcase how bad the team has become, they show Jet lapping up water out of a bowl instead of a drink bottle, which I just thought was excellent. The more I see of this movie, the more hyped up I am. We see him sign the contract, and then Jet freaks out and says she's just going to eat him, which of course shows that she's not going to be on board with him at first. However, I don't think she'll be a long-term antagonist, seeing as they hit us with a couple of comedy scenes back to back here with her in them. Previously we had the water bowl, and then when the monkey coach is telling Will she takes a loss of 2 personally, we see her staring sadly out the window of the tour bus with cat music playing, and then the owner of the team blasts her with a spray bottle like a common kitty. We then meet the rest of the team. There's Lenny the giraffe who struggles to focus, Archie the rhino who's a gentle parent and whose life seems to suck so hard. The montage of this guy was some of the funniest stuff in the trailer for me. Him crying and then sitting in a dark room with the rain and his kids doing his makeup, and then the brutal fart joke. I saw some people in the comments having a cry about this one, but as long as they don't overdo it, I think they have a place in a film like this. That being said, this one was particularly gross, wasn't it? My god, on his tongue. We meet Olivia the ostrich, who's addicted to screens, and the Komodo dragon Modo, who's a bit of a freak. It seems the horse that Will schools earlier on in the trailer is his rival Maine, and so I guess this is going to be the next confrontation after that, with Maine taking the early lead, and Will and the Thorns coming back for the win. We finish the trailer with the confirmation that Will's mum's dead, because you wouldn't include a was seen like that if she wasn't. We have some more action sequences, and then a scene in the penthouse with him calling his friends, and the bidet of the toilet blasting him, although I think we've already seen that clip in a previous trailer, right? Well, yeah, the trailer is excellent and people seem to really be engaging with it. Sony is on a hot run, but this is their true big test. They have great numbers on social media for the trailers and a lot of people hyping it up and saying Sony's the future. But can they back it up with the box office? I guess we'll have to wait and see on that score, but for now, there's not much left to say except these have all been my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What did you think of the trailer for GOAT? Did you like it? Hate it? Do you think the movie will be a hit, or maybe you think it's going to be a flop? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.